World leaders come together, speaks of promises and cooperation, hugs, shakes hands, joins hands, and that is to surge ahead for both the nations. The factual fighting, pandemic threat, economic slowdown, etc. will slow down and days will be happier again. Happy news must come from all corners of the world. For happy news, the News Analysis. News Analysis, a weekly magazine on current affairs. We'll begin it with the headlines. The Trump-Modi bromance, achievements, accolades, both leaders walks into the hearts of millions. Coronavirus outbreak spreads in Europe from Italy. Delhi riots, city tents after clashes leave 23 dead. Democratic debate rivals intensify attacks on Bernie Sanders. Germany overturns ban on professionally assisted suicide. Appeal for more funds to control locust invasion. Coronavirus, world must prepare for pandemic, says WHO. Now we'll go to the stories in detail. The Trump-Modi bromance, achievements, accolades, both leaders walks into the hearts of millions. US President Donald Trump visited India. Cheerful millions welcomed him along the way on his first state visit. Everything in the Namoste TRUMP seems to have gone according to the script. Both the countries were bettering their relations, looking for better trade and lessened tariffs. It was a giant leap in transnational negotiations. Looking beyond the song and dance and pleasantries, here are some of the key diplomatic takeaways. The first day of the visit was all about optics. Millions lined up the streets to greet him on his way from Ahmedabad airport to Mothera Cricket Stadium in Gujarat, the home state of Prime Minister Modi. At the stadium, he addressed more than 1 million people. He walked Bollywood, cricket and Indian saints. Good enough topics to get Indians interested and engaged. It was a good speech, not just for the people in the stadium, but also for the whole people in both nations and for his elections back home. Back home, the videos from the Namaste, that means hello, Trump even have already been used by his people. Mr. Modi was seen nodding and applauding to the warmth of the event. Namaste Trump was powerful enough to make people of the world enjoy togetherness. A trade deal was always going to be tough, given the two countries were engaged in a bitter tariff war just last year. Mr. Trump would have loved to sign a deal that would help bridge the American trade deficit with India. The visit will at least push India down the trade hit list of the Trump administration as negotiations continue for the trade deal. That is an achievement of Modi. Overall, it betters the relation between the two countries and betters the global image of its doings. The visit Namaste Trump event has been a successful event because you can't expect a better deal every time. There have been concerns that Delhi was losing bipartisan support in the US and it didn't have many India champions in the Trump administration. And it was important, so on many counts, it has been laudable international gesture of fraternity. Pratyush Rao, Associate Director at the Control Risk Consultancy, says that all has not been well between the two countries in recent years. There has been a perception that India-US relations have been adrift for a while. There has been a lack in the ownership of the India file in the Trump administration, he adds. And there can't be a better showcase than a presidential visit to give an impetus to the relationship. Mr. Trump loves deals and got a few to boast about when he lands in the US. India is buying attack helicopters and other US military equipment worth $3 billion. And another deal with ExxonMobil was seen India importing more liquefied natural gas (LNG) from the US. Both were easy giveaways for India. India needs energy security to feed its growth, and it had been looking to diversify its petroleum import portfolio anyway, so this one fits in. India still imports a majority of its defense equipment, and Russia owns more than 50% of the pie. Mr. Rao says it doesn't harm India to diversify its defense portfolio as long as it can keep Moscow on its side. Mr. Trump subtly criticized China without naming the country at least a couple of times. He repeated Washington's doubts over the security of Chinese tech giant Huawei 5G technology without saying so explicitly. During our visit, we discussed the importance of a secure 5G wireless network and the need for this emerging technology to be a tool for freedom, progress, prosperity, not to do anything with where it could be even conceived as a conduit for suppression and censorship, Mr. Trump said. Michael Krugelman, deputy director at the Wilson Center, says the president's statement was not surprising. China really looms large in this relationship. You can talk about shared values, the Modi-Trump friendship, but it's really the converging interests that bring the two countries together. He says both countries see China as a matter of concern. And Mr. Trump again called the region Indo-Pacific instead of Asia-Pacific, as China would like to hear it. He also mentioned the Quad and the Blue Dot project. The project, led and launched by Washington, is meant to bring the governments and the private sectors of the US, Australia, and Japan together. It won't be complete without India's cooperation. The Quad has ebbed and flowed. But over the last years, there has been efforts to bring it back in the limelight, and Mr. Trump's mention of the project in India is a significant step towards reviving it, Mr. Krugelman adds. The risk for India involves antagonizing China, which sees the Quads as a counter to its own Belt and Road initiative. But Mr. Krugelman says such apprehension seems to have been cast aside for now. And Mr. Trump again called the region Indo-Pacific instead of Asia-Pacific, and China may not like it. Mentioning Pakistan and Kashmir is a line foreign leaders try not to cross when visiting India, but Mr. Trump did. He said he had excellent relations with Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan and once again offered to mediate the Kashmir issue. The Indian side will see these as minor digressions, especially given the fact that Mr. Trump was so effusive in praising Mr. Modi and India. Mr. Trump also refused to comment on the ongoing protests and religious intolerance in Delhi and other places. Mr. President went a step further than expected. He praised Mr. Modi's efforts in giving religious freedom to every community in India. The slowdown of the economy in India, growing especially unrest, and the expected global slowdown because of the coronavirus may cast shadows on the relationship perhaps. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe also pulled out all the stops to keep Mr. Trump on his side, but that didn't stop the US President from berating Japan. For now, however, India has done well. India will go ahead in its international relationships. Namoste Trump, apart from being a fraternal reciprocation to Howdy Modi of Houston, it was capable enough in forcing a change in American leaders' general approach to India.